Shut up and sit down.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Rural Report. I am your Rural 2IC, and today I want to bring you a new episode that's going to be titled Something New to Prep For. We're going to pose that as a question. Now, when we talk about prepping and in the prepping community, what I like to do is we prep for probable before we prep for possible. And if you're new to the community, welcome. But what I mean by that, if you've never heard that before, is that we prep for things that are the most likely to happen. So you prep for a natural disaster, you prep for a job loss, you prep for illness in the family, you prep for, different things like that. Things that are more likely going to happen to you versus being struck by lightning. Can you be struck by lightning? Yes, it happens to people. Will it happen to you? Well, again, your chances of that happening are very, very low. But there is something that has been in the news that is kind of being a little sensationalized, and I'd like to take a little bit more of a deeper dive into that to see what it is, how serious this is, and should this be something that we prepare for. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this video. All right, so the topic for today of something new to prep for. Now, in the news in the past couple of weeks, AI has been all over everywhere. And I'd like to take a moment and kind of look into it. So AI has been around for a little while, not as significant, hasn't been around for 50 years. This is something that's relatively new, but it's actually been around a little longer than what a lot of people give it credit for. Now, the AI that has really been in the news is the kind of future AI, the stuff that we're just now kind of learning about. And it's kind of the stuff that, in my opinion, kind of goes into the Hollywood aspect of AI. And if it does, and I hope that I'm not going into tinfoil hat too far for you, this is something more of just a exercise for you to think about without being overly dramatic or trying to fearmonger or whatnot. So, as we all know, more and more things seem to be computer controlled. And you have to look at it in, as more things get controlled by computers, you have to look at what we already have. And with everybody being online right now, you not only get to see the good, but the bad without AI. So you can sit there on social media and watch all the complaints pour in when Call of Duty's server goes down. There's hundreds of thousands of people that immediately take it to Reddit or, whatever social media or whatever, and just completely lose their mind because their favorite video game's down. They can't play, they can't access it. And, again, how many people complained when whatever the show was? I don't know. I don't watch too much of it. But there was some new series coming out on Netflix, and the night it was supposed to come out, like over 2/3 of the people couldn't view it because they had some sort of glitch. This is before AI, and people were losing their minds that they couldn't watch a TV series or whatever it was. And so I want to kind of pose, as more and more things get computer controlled, and AI becomes more integrated with it, what happens when you have that glitch or that AI causes that glitch? So what happens if you have a bigger event than the ones that we just said, where let's say somebody uses AI in the wrong way and they take out all the computer controlling for traffic lights? How much would that really affect day-to-day life, that all of a sudden all the traffic lights in your state or your country just suddenly turned off? Everything else works, but there's no traffic lights. you know, People would go nuts over it. You would have accidents everywhere because nobody, it seems like, wants to take turns or, think about others. It's always, man, I've got to get to my next destination right now. I don't care about anybody else. Get out of my way, move. And you see that, in every day. And so what happens if it's a little worse? What happens if somebody uses AI in the wrong way and it takes down GPS? How many times have you used GPS trying to go somewhere semi-local? Some new restaurant opens up or new store that you want to go to, and it's in a different area of town that you're not quite familiar with. So you look it up on your phone to get GPS to go there. Not really survival in that sense, but how much harder would life be if you didn't have GPS? How would you get to a lot of places if GPS went down? And then you can even take it another step further. What happens if somebody used the AI in more nefarious ways and they took out all of cell service? No communications. What if they took out the internet altogether? What happens if they took out power altogether? We just went through and said in our example of how much that people complained and their life was over when they couldn't access their favorite TV show or video game. How much would people really panic and lose their minds if there was no internet, no cell service, no power grid whatsoever, all because somebody used AI in the wrong way? And that's just some examples. So let's go ahead and look at it in a few more different areas in the next one. All right, to look at it in another sense, what happens if instead of turning it off, what happens if it was just being controlled? So you got to think of it in kind of a terms of like a Marvel movie, the Tesseract, when it came, out into the movies. He said, well, turn the power off. Well, we can't because it is power. It'll just turn itself back on. So what happens if we do that with AI? They go through and they try and create AI as quickly as possible. Because remember, as a human, it seems like you've got to be the first at everything. So you are so preoccupied on being the first one to create AI that you wasn't careful in the development of it. So now when you go to pull the plug, it finds a way to plug itself back in. Then you can't control it. Then you got to look, because now it can kind of control whatever it wants. And you're not talking to a human where you can reason with it and justify yourself. Every story is different. So what happens if you are, like myself, a few extra pounds, or you are legitimately a little overweight, and you go to your store and you go, I'd like a bag of chips. I would like some candy. And AI goes, no, you can't buy that. You need to be more healthy. Now, we can laugh at that and joke and say, that'll never happen. Look at all the things that's happened in the past couple of years. We never thought all the things that's happening now. You would go back 5 years and say some of these things, you would laugh. So is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? I don't know, but we're kind of moving in that way to where possible is starting to move to probable. Now, what happens if it goes a little step further? What happens if it starts controlling what you can listen to and what you can watch? It doesn't want you to look at violent things. So no more access to, movies that have violence in it. It doesn't want you to speed because that's breaking the law. So No more, movies like Fast and the Furious or anything like that. What happens if it gets programmed and AI takes it into a thing that, a relationship is two people. And so, all the drama of different relationships movies where, you hook up outside of marriage or you cheat on somebody. Well, that's a bad thing. So AI turns it off. Well, this has this lyric in this song. It's not a good thing for a human. So it'll take and turn it off. You can't even listen to it. You have no right to it. What happens if it goes a step further? A lot of people, if you aren't familiar with the robots by Boston Dynamics, my opinion, those are one of the scariest things there are before AI. But they are connected, they're controlled. What happens if AI controls those? Me, that's a nightmarish situation. Like the thought of the craziness that the robots that they put out now can now be completely overtaken by AI. That's a worst nightmare scenario. But what happens if it starts controlling military equipment? What happens if it says humans do not possess the knowledge and wisdom to be able to control nuclear weapons? So, it does whatever it does. It launches them into space or it just permanently, disables them. What happens if it starts taking over a lot more than just that? It sees that this group of people wants to harm this other group of people. And so AI turns on military grade equipment and takes that group of people out. There's a lot to think about. And it almost brings it into, again, another movie reference, I apologize, of the Minority Report. What happens when you are at home and you use a phrase like, oh, I would, punch him in the face if he ever said that, ha, ha, ha. Well, if AI doesn't pick up that that's a saying or a joke on your Alexa or your Ring camera or your cell phone, well, that's violence. You're going to hurt somebody. That's breaking a law. And the next thing you know, you have a knock on your door and you're going to be arrested for pre-crime. You've done nothing wrong. You weren't even going to act on what you just said, but AI picked up on it and you were intended to do it. It's just something to think about. Now, we can take and laugh at this off all we want, and hopefully we can laugh at this in a few years. None of this happened. This was all just completely make-believe, and we're just thinking way out in the left field and all that. All completely fantasy. It will all never come true. Hope we can do that. I'm just saying that it's something worth thinking about in case we're not wrong. So let's wrap this up with some final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts on all this. Is AI something to be concerned about? As it stands today, it's not the sky's falling, we have to drop everything we're doing. Is it something that is serious? Yeah, in my opinion, I would keep an eye on it. It's something that with the technology that we have today, with everything that is so tech-oriented, your TV, your smartphone, all the smart electronics in your house, all the smart electronics outside of your house, everything seems to want to go into some sort of computer chip. And you really have to be careful because if a human can control it, then AI could potentially control it. And, we've seen all the movies, and granted, yes, that's make-believe Hollywood stuff. Could it still come true? Yeah, I think it could. Now, hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully that just remains a pastime Hollywood, story to tell. But in the off chance that maybe this is foreshadowing of things that could happen, it's something that we might want to keep just a little bit of an eye on and start thinking on ways that you can kind of protect yourself. That if AI suddenly starts to get a little bit out of control, then what can you do about it? Now, in my personal opinion, do I think that AI is going to suddenly turn into some sort of Terminator movie or anything like that? No, unless it gets into Boston Dynamics and whatnot. And then again, I don't think that they have that many robots to create this giant army that we're all going to scream about. But I don't think it needs it. Everybody has a smartphone or some sort of smart thing in their car, or even if you don't, which you're watching this now, so you've got some sort of technology. But even if you don't, you probably work around it, go to the store, with it, you're on the road with it. You're around technology unless you are just a hermit out in the middle of nowhere, which that means you're probably not watching this, and great for you. I'm jealous. But for the rest of us, hopefully this video goes off into the distance and we all can just laugh at it, and I can admit in 3, 5, 10 years, man, I was wrong. What was I thinking? For now, let's just take and put a pin in this video and go, you know what? This might be something to think about. Just a maybe. Put it in your, natural disasters to zombie apocalypse. Maybe somewhere right here in the middle. You probably still want to prep for all the things that are very, very likely to happen. Maybe this will be that kind of next thing when you get this side all prepared for. Maybe start moving over here and start jotting some things down. Not quite the zombie apocalypse, but I think it's a lot more possible to happen. So, with that being said, make sure that you like, subscribe, hit that little bell notification so that way you will be reminded every time that we make new content here. Go check us out on Facebook. Just go search for The Rural Report. We're dropping new content. We're doing a lot more interactive stuff. We do giveaways and whatnot. We have a new series that's going to come out. I'll put out some content telling you about that in the future. I did make a Facebook post about it, so if you haven't been on Facebook, go check us out so way you can see the new upcoming series that's going to be happening. And with that, just guys, remain united. We're all prepping in this together.